Hello again. Hello again. It's been a long time. I have decided to come out of retirement for at least tonight. I don't know how long. I need to make sure everything looks good here. Make sure the hair looks good. My hair is crazy as usual. Okay. So I haven't live streamed for many, many months. And the explanation as to why uh, it would be a very long one. So I'm not going to get into that tonight about why I haven't been on for a long time. And I'm sorry for not being on for a very long time. But tonight I want to talk about Charlie Kirk. I have been meaning to come on here live for, well, ever since the brutal killing last, was it Wednesday? I even thought about coming on the night that it happened. But the major reason I didn't is because I felt that I needed to collect my thoughts before I come on here and possibly say something that I will regret, something that I had a kind of a heat of the moment opinion on and maybe wanted to retract it later on. I was too full of anger and sadness at the same time. And so I didn't want to come on here and spill all that all over you. Although, a part of me kind of regrets it because it's a huge part of history, and to look back and see how you thought or how someone else thought of it on the day it happened is, I guess, maybe somewhat valuable. But I didn't. And then in the days that followed, I had a hard time, and I am still having a hard time sort of piecing together my actual thoughts on the whole thing. I have to tell you that my brain since that day has been a complete mess. And what's kind of weird is a lot of times when something like that happens, you have strong emotions on the day that it happens or whenever it happens. And then as the days go by, you kind of have less of that feeling. You start to feel a little bit better about it. You start to kind of have some perspective. But I have to tell you that has not happened for me. Um, it's been kind of each day that goes by, I think about it more and kind of struggle with it more. As you may know, I was not a diehard Charlie Kirk fan. I was certainly a fan. I agreed with 99% of the things he said, maybe 95. But what I always admired about Charlie Kirk, even if there were some aspects of the message that I thought maybe could be tinkered or whatever, what I always respected about him was not just his ability to debate, which is what we're kind of eulogizing him as a great college debater, and he was that. He certainly was that. But he was an entrepreneur and a builder. He built TPUSA from scratch. He brought in the money. He met with the donors. He formed the relationships. Charlie Kirk was the reason that TPUSA became what it was. He was the founder. He was the driver. He was the force behind it. And so I've always admired how he did all of that at such a young age. And for any of us who are, I don't know what you would say, influencers, entertainers, commentators, writers, bloggers, vloggers, live streamers, all of us who are in that world kind of can look up to someone like Charlie Kirk as someone who really has been able to do it the right way and to really hit a home run with it. So in that sense, I always admired him from afar. But of course, the real reason why we admired him, or maybe the real reason I admired him, is because in him I saw myself. Anybody who is a young person who was on college campuses or in high school debating liberals knows that it can get very heated and contentious, and they can be very aggressive. They can be very volatile. And Charlie Kirk was literally doing that for a living. He was going to college campuses and having these discussions with people and debates with people. So obviously, when you see something like that happen to someone like him or to him, you think, well, if they want that to happen to him, that means they wouldn't mind it happening to me. And so that kind of toys with your brain. This was not a political hit in the way that maybe we're used to with a politician or a world leader or something. This was just someone who had opinions and had a big following. And there'll be plenty of time for us to get into that and the repercussions that is going to have, because now it's, we never really imagined it happening in that context, but now that's something we have to live with. So I have a bunch of thoughts, and they're not in order. They're not neat and tidy. They're messy, and they're still kind of developing in my brain, if you will. But I have a few thoughts on, first of all, the memorial, which I watched most of it. I think I watched about 80% of it. I thought it was very well done. It's incredible to see that there was, like, I don't know, 100,000 plus people there. They did a pan out shot of the whole stadium, and you would have thought the Arizona Cardinals were playing in the Super Bowl there. It was that packed. So it was vintage TPUSA, because TPUSA and Charlie Kirk really prided themselves, and so they should have, because they did a great job at production. They were really good at, not only were they going to hone their message, they were going to hone the way in which the message was delivered, and they were very good at that. So I was not surprised in the least that this whole thing was organized very, very well, and everyone was great, and the production was fantastic, and the visuals were amazing, and the music and the worship and everything about it was incredible. So they did a really good job, and I think, they only had a week to plan it, so they hit a home run. And of course, we had speakers, all different ones: Marco Rubio and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. But then we heard from Charlie's widow, Erica Kirk, and she gave a very moving tribute to her husband. And at a certain point in her tribute, in her eulogy, she referenced the shooter, and something went through my mind, and I thought, I bet you she's going to forget. And sure enough, that's exactly what she did. So it is clear that she is truly living out her Christian faith. There are a lot of Christians you see, and you kind of have to think, well, wait a second. I mean, yeah, you go to church and yeah, you call yourself a Christian, but I don't really see much there. Now, uh, everyone falls short, myself included, but there aren't as many people as you would like to see speaking the faith and living it. And she is clearly one who's living it. And Charlie Kirk was one who certainly lived it. And the extent to which his tragic passing, I don't even know if I can say certain words on YouTube, um, but his passing, if there's anything possible good coming of it, it's that there's going to be a lot of new Christians, a lot of new church attendees, a lot of new followers of Jesus, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So I think it's quite possible that this event will have and will shape the country more spiritually than it does politically. I think one of the reasons why I have struggled with this more than I expected I would is because I saw it happen. And I'm sure many of you can sympathize with my feeling here. There are many times that we know a shooting or a murder took place, or even the A word, as I'm not going to say on YouTube, and we sort of hear about it and we know it happened, but we don't see it happen. And because of social media and because we have advanced technologically to the point we now not only see it happen, we see it happen in 5K or 4K or whatever. We see it happen very clearly from every different angle. I mean, I saw it happen from a head-on angle, from his left side, from his right side. And that's very horrific and very disturbing to see. And then, of course, Erica Kirk posts the video on Instagram and the photos on Instagram of him in the casket. And it's like these things kind of pile up in my brain, and they've kind of, unfortunately, they've created a dark cloud over my psyche the last week and a half. And I know that I'm not alone in that, and I'm not here to tell you like, oh, woe is me, I'm whatever, depressed and boo-hoo. But my thinking is that there is a select portion of the population to whom this has been a, dare I say, traumatizing event. And I don't really know if we fully understand how traumatizing. So you start off with the fact that it's traumatizing to begin with, to watch it happen, to know that it happened, and to kind of process that it's happened. But then to see that there are people who are happy that it happened or are cheering it on, that is even more, I don't like to use the word traumatizing, but for lack of a better term, that makes it even more traumatizing. So there's that. And I guess something that has troubled me is not just the response from the haters, because the response from the haters, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was actually predictable. When I saw that there were people laughing and celebrating and saying he had it coming and whatever, I actually wasn't surprised. I was horrified, just as I am every time I see something like that. But I wasn't surprised because I know how many of these people can be. I have been following politics very closely, and I've been following the whole, not just politics in Washington D.C. or world politics. I've been following the culture and I've been observing it. And we saw the killing of the pharmaceutical executive, and we saw the response to that. And so I've seen a lot, and I know how there are a lot of people to whom something like this is something for them to celebrate. It's very disturbing, but it wasn't surprising. And I think there are a lot of newcomers to politics. There are a lot of people who have just sort of come on board. Maybe they're in their early 20s, late teens, or maybe they're older and they've just sort of gotten into it now. And to whom that was shocking. Like they weren't quite expecting that response. They're kind of, I don't want to say naive, but they're sort of jaded to this world and how crazy it is and how aggressive people are and how horrible and frankly how evil people are. So I can see how for many that has disturbed them, and it just disturbed me. But what I was originally getting at is that it isn't just the haters' response that has sort of gotten me. It's the response of people who probably liked Charlie Kirk too. And it's not the response of trying to cancel people and censorship and all that. And we can talk about all that. But it's sort of this response that says, turn away. Don't look. Turn the news off. Get off social media. That's what people are saying. That's how they're responding. Don't look at the video. Don't look at what people are saying online. Don't pay attention. Just avert your eyes. And I have to tell you, I understand where they're coming from, because when you turn off the news and you delete social media, you feel 100 times better. But it is my belief that the lesson from Charlie Kirk is not to turn off the news. It's not to shy away. It's not to stop speaking, to stop engaging, to stop following politics, to turn inward. To me, the lesson of Charlie Kirk is it is time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to speak up. And it's time to get up and stop pretending that everything is just okay. Everything is fine. Because clearly everything is not fine. Now, here's the thing. I am a Christian. I understand people are saying God is in control. And I agree with that. And people are saying God is still on the throne before the shooting and after the shooting. And I agree with that too. But God, I don't think, God does not want us to be a bystander. He doesn't want us to remove ourselves from politics, remove ourselves from the debate, remove ourselves from controversy, remove ourselves from institutions that are controlled by people who aren't for us. God wants us to boldly step in to those areas, step into politics, step into the debate, step into the controversy, step into the arena. I don't think the lesson from Charlie Kirk, who made his life stepping into the arena, is for us to just plug our ears and pretend like nothing's going on. We will go and live our humble lives over here, and you guys take care of the politics. I don't think that's what he wants. Now, it is not for me to say what God wants, certainly, but I'm just telling you what my thoughts are. My brain is jarbled right now, and it has been for the whole week and a half. It's just been, you play these games in your mind like, well, they were canceling us, so now we're going to cancel them. And it's like, well, wait, no, we believe in free speech. But then if we believe in free speech, well, we're just going to let them go on there and on TV and say we're happy and say, oh, this was MAGA doing this, when that's a complete and total lie. So, you wrestle with these things. You wrestle. I saw today, I was in Target, and I saw that book by Jordan Peterson, We Who Wrestle with God. I don't know what that book's about. I read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. I have no idea what this one's about. But that title really got to me, because I'm like, you know what? That's really what I'm doing right now. I'm not wrestling with God. I'm wrestling with my thoughts in my head all the time about this thing that's happened. But I just can't really accept the response that I'm seeing from a lot of people, which is just turn inward. And I think, to me, that is not optimal for Christians. I think Christians need to get in the fight, for lack of a better term. Get in. Get involved. We need Christians in these institutions. We need Christians in politics. We need them in D.C. We need them in state, the governor's mansions and the state legislatives and everything else. We need Christians involved. We need Christians in the media. We need them doing podcasts. We need them on Twitter. Yes. We need them on Instagram. Yes. And there's this kind of like aversion to social media now. Like, people can be on social media for hours looking at complete garbage, but then the second we're looking at politics, it's like, don't get involved in that. Don't get involved in politics. Don't get involved in the future of your country. And so I have to be honest with you, I'm very discouraged. I'm discouraged because I feel as though there aren't enough people who truly want to save the country. Charlie Kirk was somebody who dedicated his life to trying to save the country and to save souls. That's a perfect, actually, as I think about it, that's a perfect sentence. That's a perfect tombstone line for him. Wanted to save the country, wanted to save souls. Or maybe put this wanted to save souls first and the country second. Probably. But that's what he wanted. So the question is, how do we go forward from this? And I have to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. And I know there's a lot of people right now who think, and I'm glad for this, by the way. I know there's a lot of people right now who think this is like a revival, and look at the stadium, it's full and people are coming to Christ and they're coming to church now, and like this whole event has really like made an impact, and this is really a turning point, to use the phrase and to use the namesake of his cause and his organization. And I hope and pray that that's true. I hope and pray that this really causes a lot of young people to go to the right, to go to church, to become more conservative, and not just young people, people in general. I hope that's the case, but I don't really know if that's the case, because as always, when something like this is happening, we're all ginned up, we're all revved up, we're all ready for to be happy warriors. But then weeks go by, months go by, and people, unfortunately, they kind of just forget. I mean, Charlie Kirk fought for his beliefs and his faith every day, consistently, every day for years, for 10, 15 years. Do we all have that ability and that drive? And I have to tell you this. When this happened to him, in the days following, something was telling me, hey, you got to get back on YouTube. You got to get back on there. Because this is something, number one, that I enjoy doing. But number two, I think the cause is worth it. And I think this is where the battle is going to be. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on Instagram and on X. That may sound like weird to people, or like corny, or not corny, but like, I don't know. They're like, oh, really? Like, we're going to save the country on the internet, on social media? It's like, yeah. Yeah. On TikTok? Yeah. How many people do you think converted because of Charlie Kirk, something they saw on TikTok? How many people you think became more conservative because of something they saw on TikTok? Just because you don't like the medium doesn't mean the medium isn't powerful, and doesn't mean the medium can't be used. And we like to talk about distractions, and we can't be distracted by politics. How many people are distracted by sports? Look, I'm one of them. I watch sports, hockey, baseball, basketball sometimes, football. Well, actually, I don't watch basketball anymore, but we can dedicate hours to betting, to listening to sports talk, radio talk, sports podcasts. We can watch ESPN. We can watch Sports Center. We can pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go to the Dolphins game, and to go here and to go there. And so we're okay with those distractions. But to get distracted saving the country would be anathema to our livelihoods. So look, I know I'm ranting a little bit here, and it's just because I feel like Charlie Kirk was a spiritual warrior, and a lot of the spiritual people and a lot of the Christians are telling us, don't be a spiritual warrior, just leave it alone. Leave politics alone. Don't worry about that. That's for all the politicians and all those comments. Let them fight it out. It's like, no, Christians need to be involved in these things. If you want to save your country, if you want to save your society, You have to have a say. You have to be there to have your voice heard. If you're not there, they're going to set the agenda. They're going to influence youth. They're going to convert people on TikTok. They're going to bring people to their side. And they work tirelessly every day. And the reason why the culture has gone so far to the left is because they want it more. They know the country they want. They know how they're going to get there. They know the people they're going to use. They know the mediums they're going to use. They know the social media platforms they're going to use. They know where they're going to get the money from. They know how they're going to do it. They know how much time they're going to spend on it. They know when they're going to get there. They know how to win elections. They know who to run. They know who not to run. They know who the advisors are. They know who the media figures are. They know who the comedians are. They are hungry. They want the country to go in their direction. We want the country to go in our direction, but we have no idea what the plan is. We have no idea who the media people are. We have no idea what social media platforms we're going to use. Not only do we have no idea, we're saying, hey, don't even go on there. Delete them all. Get off there. Don't worry yourself with that. And let me tell you, if your goal is to have strictly a happy life, well, okay, maybe that's best for you. You may not have an interest in politics, but politics has an interest in you. It has an interest in your family. It has an interest in your school. It has an interest in your higher education. It has an interest in your healthcare. It has an interest in every single aspect of your life. They are entangled in every aspect, and they want to win badly. And lately, politically, they have been losing. And I posit this to you. The reason they are finally starting to lose is because the right has chosen a fighter. And we know who that man is. The right has chosen someone to go and fight for them. And he fights hard. And then, people on our side go, oh, I wish he wouldn't say it that way. Oh, I wish he wouldn't be so mean. Oh, I wish he would just be nicer. I wish he would just tone it down. I wish he would do this, this, this. Once again, the other side wants it more. Now, to bring this back to Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk's life was dedicated to doing all the things I just talked about. He was going to find the candidates. He was going to find the money. He was going to find the ground game and work the ground game and find the people to do it. He was going to find the talent. He was going to find the people who could be lawyers and help the cause in other ways other than being on social media and politics. He was going to do it all. He started an organization to do that. He started this organization not to make himself feel more comfortable or to make himself feel more at peace or to make himself feel happy and fulfilled. He did it because he cared about his country. He wanted the country to be saved. That's what he was dedicating himself to. And yes, he wanted people to be saved. Now, it just so happens that accomplishing those things takes getting your hands a little dirty. So if Charlie Kirk had have chosen the easy life of no disagreements, no controversy, no contention, no difficulty, he would have just slinked back into his Illinois suburb and said, I'm going to just have my wife and my kids and the happy little life here. And whatever happens to the country, that's what happens to the country. But thank God he did not choose that. He did not choose that. He chose, yes, I'm going to have my wife and my family, and they will come first, along with God and faith. But I'm going to dedicate myself to helping to turn this country in the direction that I want and in the direction I believe is the right direction and that millions believe is the right direction. And I'm going to dedicate my life to it. And somehow the response has been, let's just do the opposite of that. So that is kind of been discouraging or disappointing for me. I have to tell you. My hope is that what has happened and the outpouring of support for Charlie Kirk has encouraged young people to not turn off the news and delete their social media and pull away from controversy, pull away from the debate, but to do the opposite, to get in it. To all young conservative people, the country needs you. Yes, there are debates happening on X and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. And yes, we need you there too. Maybe you don't want to engage in the debates and you just want to spread the good news of Jesus Christ and Christian beliefs in your faith. We need you too. On TikTok, on Instagram, on social media, in the arena, in the schools, in the institutions. I'm reminded of a sermon. I believe Billy Graham said it, but I'm not sure. But it was something to the effect of, we need Christians to pour out of the churches and into the voting booth and into the institutions and into the schools. And that is how movements happen. That's how influence is gained. Now, I know we should not live solely for this world. We should be living for heaven and God's kingdom. But I just don't think that means that we just sit around here on earth and wait for the society to be destroyed. I just don't think that's what we should be doing. Is it a lot easier? Yeah. Is it a lot more peaceful for me to not be on social media and not be, looking at what's happening in politics? Yeah. But think, this country and these many Western societies, many millions of people died for the country to be the way it is. And we're just going to sit here and say, well, I don't know. It's just like, I'm going to delete my Instagram. It's just too much, man. It's like, really? This is where we are? No. Charlie Kirk wanted you to double down on these things, double down on your faith, double down on your beliefs. Pray more, yes, but work more and debate more and get in the arena, because that's where he was. He was in the arena. Now, we can have a discussion about whether or not that is a good strategy in the long run, because clearly, as we saw what happened, you can talk until you're blue in the face to some people and they will not budge. I mean, sometimes there's just no point. And a lot of times there's a time for stepping back and a time for saying, hey, you believe what you want to believe. I'm not gonna lose my peace trying to change your mind. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. But I don't want the response to Charlie Kirk's passing to be for people to shy away from these things or to go into their own little cocoon and think that that is going to save them or that is going to make the society better if we just mind our own business. That's going to help. Like, yeah, that makes your life a lot easier. But are you in it for an easier life, or are you in it for a purpose? And I heard a lot of people saying that they went to church and their pastor did not mention Charlie Kirk's name. To me, that is a sad thing. That's a very sad thing. Because when you have one of the most, if not the most, popular Christian figures in America right now, and that happens to him, and the churches do not say his name on the Sunday after it happens, we have a problem. We have a big problem now. And do they not want to say it because it's controversial, or they're afraid of the backlash, or this or that? I don't know. But let me tell you something. If that's the case, and if that's the reason they don't do it, they have won. The censors have won. The left has won. If they don't want to mention Charlie Kirk's name because they're afraid a few people might leave the church, I don't know. So, on the one hand, I am grateful and happy and inspired to see. I mean, look, when I watched that service today and I saw that place packed, I thought, man, that is really something else. I mean, that is. And by the way, I haven't talked about this either. I've mostly talked about the things that have been disturbing me, and I'm sorry for that. I don't want to be totally negative, but um, there have been a lot of positives. The initial outpouring of support for Charlie Kirk in the days that followed absolutely blew me away, because I am someone who follows politics closely. And if someone told me weeks ago that this was going to happen to Charlie Kirk, what do you think the response would be? And I would say there'd be a lot. I mean, it'd be 24/7 on Fox News. Uh, Conservative social media influencers would be talking about it nonstop. But I never imagined that every single post on my social media feed, both from networks and huge online outfits and personal friends, was all about Charlie Kirk. Like one after another after another. The only thing I can kind of compare it to is in the other direction when the George Floyd event happened and everyone was posting with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. It was like that, but for Charlie Kirk and for TPUSA. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. So I was pleasantly surprised by the positive outpouring. Now, of course, that was coupled with the very disturbing celebrations. But look, I think with those people, they expose themselves. I don't think we necessarily need to respond to that. I think they expose themselves for who they are. I watched which I shouldn't have. It was a waste of time, but clickbait. I watched a panel discussion, if you want to call it that, on Pierce Morgan, and they had Anna Kasparian on there, who's Anna Kasparian's like still a liberal, but she's kind of waking up a little bit, and she's debating Destiny, and then you've got Jack Posobiec, and Destiny's going off and refusing to say that the Charlie Kirk thing was a tragedy and it was horrifying, and acting like a complete fool. And then he's talking, and then all of a sudden Jack Posobiec, who's like very stoic, all of a sudden just starts saying, "Shut up, Destiny, shut up." And I'm thinking, don't do that. I mean, you're just now it's just two people screaming at each other, right? First of all, it was a lunatic screaming, and you were just listening to his lunacy, and now you're screaming too, and now we're both, on the same plane. Obviously, I know that Jack Posobiec was very close to Charlie Kirk, so it's emotional for him. But I just think that the celebratory responses I mean, I think it's also people want to talk about politics. They want to say, "Oh, it's the left. It's the left. It's so blah blah blah." And yeah, there are certain elements of the left that are like that, but I think it's a more of a mental illness problem. Another thing that I saw, like right after the incident happened, there was a guy who hopped over the barricade. There was a bunch of hats. There was a bunch of MAGA hats that Charlie had thrown out to the crowd before he entered or while he was entering. And after it happens, literally, like he's just been taken away, pretty much already dead. And this guy hops over the barricades and just starts taking the hats and throwing them out to the crowd, like, "Oh, free hats!" It's like, and then you couple that with the people celebrating what happened, and it's just like this society is so sick. Like there is something wrong. And of course, it's not, it's probably like 10% or 15% of the population. But let me tell you something. Long before this incident and long before what happened in Butler, I would hear multiple people. This is in person, not even online. And it's not like crazy people online. I would hear people wishing for the death of their political opponents. I'm not going to say who they, but you can piece together the puzzle of who they were talking about and what they were saying. And I would just think to myself, I don't even know how to process that. Like, how can somebody truly believe that? And how can someone then utter it and chuckle and think that that's normal? And that led me to believe, because we constantly hear about things like there's more that unites us than divides us. Like if I've heard that, I've heard that once, I've heard it a million times. Oh wow. And everybody who says it, they say it like they're coming up with a profundity. Like that's the most profound thing. They just thought of it and no one else has ever said it. Oh, there's more that unites us than divides us. Lately, I'm starting to think there's more that divides us than unites us. Honestly, and I know that sounds like harsh, but I actually think that. I think there are more people than you think that have that celebratory response, the horrific celebratory response you see. I think there are more people than you think. I think there are more people than you think that just kind of shrug their shoulders and go, well, whatever. You said controversial things, so whatever. And it's like, we have a really serious problem here. And look, as much as I just criticized it and lambasted it, I really understand the temptation to just be like, you know what? I've had it. I've had it with all this. I've had it with watching these debates. I've had it with watching these people argue. I've had it with watching them yell and scream, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. I've had it. I'm just going to take care of myself. I'm just going to, take care of my family, worry about what's going on with me, and to heck with it. To heck with the country. To heck with this, everything. And look, I get that. I really get that, and I don't think it's the right response. I think that if we do that, then we are giving in and we are giving up, and they will take over. I mean, they will take over. The country will look like a country that you don't want it to look like, politically, economically, everything, socially. It will not be the way you want it to be. And the reason it will be that way is because you gave up. You said, I don't want to fight anymore. And look, honestly, that's fine. If the people of the country seriously don't have the stomach for it, if they don't have the stomach to carry on Charlie Kirk's legacy, then the country will be a completely different country. And you can have your family, and you can have your peace, and you can have your joy, and you can have a barbecue and a sports jersey on Saturday night and Sunday morning, and then you can be driving your truck and you can go to the comedy club and laugh at the comic, and and then go golfing on Saturday afternoon, and everything's hunky dory here. I'm saving for my retirement, and I'm gonna buy a new Ford F-150 next week because I finally got enough money to do it, and oh yeah, things are going real bad with the country and the politics, so I don't get myself involved in that. That's how the country is lost. That's how the country is lost. So you have to really decide. Like when I put in the description of this video, how do we move forward? The question is, do we carry on Charlie's legacy or don't we? Charlie's legacy was not just faith in God and Jesus. Charlie's legacy was faith in God and Jesus and spreading the word, spreading it, engaging in discussion and argument and winning minds and winning hearts. Charlie's legacy is changing minds politically, changing the social direction, the political direction, the economic direction of the country. Not just having the belief, but actively trying to change it, actively trying to push it in your direction. He didn't just hold the beliefs and sit passively by and say, someone else will worry about that. Someone else will save the country. Someone else will preach the gospel. Someone else will do that. We're Christian. We're not going to get involved in politics. That's politics. We don't get involved in politics. We just stay here in the church, and we don't like, that's dirty. That's icky. Politics is, we don't want to get involved. That's not the life Charlie Kirk lived. So let us not say that we are honoring Charlie's legacy by turning away and turning inward. That is not his legacy. His legacy was boldness, braveness, speaking up and speaking out confidently, respectfully. Yes, respectfully. Charlie Kirk was the most respectful person you could ever engage with. They think Charlie Kirk was a radical right winger. I got news for these people. He wasn't even close. He wasn't even close to a radical right winger. You think that's a radical right wing person? Charlie Kirk was for common sense, moderate conservatism. Charlie Kirk went on campus and engaged in respectful discussions and debate. I can only think of a handful of times I've ever seen him yell or get angry or animated. Well, he got animated, but not angry. So yes, be respectful, but be confident and be bold and be brave. And I just feel like to truly honor his legacy, we need to be bold. Because that's what he was. He was bold. It is my belief that we do not honor his legacy by shrinking and turning inward. Charlie Kirk did not turn inward. Charlie Kirk looked upward and walked forward. And he enjoyed it. He was a happy warrior. I heard someone say, Charlie did it all with a twinkle in his eye. And that's true. He really did. You saw him and he was, it's like he was made for it. It's like that's what he was meant to do, is talk to people, and God gave him a gift to go and he was articulate and he was quick-witted and he was, engaging. And that's what he did. And that is a full, bold, faithful life. Once again, now go back to that one sentence that just came off the top of my head. Save souls, save the country. That was Charlie Kirk. Save souls, save the country. And to tie it back to what I've been saying, you don't save souls and save the country by turning inward and deleting social media and not listening to the news and not being informed and not reading. This country needs more people informed. This country needs more people engaging. This country needs more people listening to different voices and different opinions and listening to the podcast. Yes, listen to the podcast. Don't turn off the podcast. Now, of course, there's me who sometimes gets obsessed, and my girlfriend has to tell me, Tyler, please stop doom scrolling on X. And that's me, because I'm on like the opposite end of the spectrum. But we don't have an issue with people on this end of the spectrum. Like, we don't have an issue with people who are paying attention too much. Okay? We have an issue with people not paying attention enough. People are consumed with sports, reality TV, Netflix, Hulu. That's their world. They don't touch the political world. But the political world is coming for them. As I say, and I know it's a cheap phrase, you may not have an interest in politics, but politics has an interest in you. Christians, you may not like politics. You may not like media. You may not like all that, but it has an interest in you. You may not have an interest in it, but it has an interest in you. And when you turn around and say, what happened to the country? Why is there so much talk about this radical thing and that? And this is how people talk all the time. They say, can you believe what's happening in the schools? Can you believe what they're teaching? Can you believe this? It's like, yeah, I can. They've been working on it for 50 years. For 50 years, that's all they've done. They've slept, everything, politics, power, influence. That's what they do. That's their goal. For 50 years, they've worked on it, and they are relentless. It doesn't matter if they lose an election. It doesn't matter if something happens in the culture that looks like things are going the other way. They just keep going. We, on the other hand, we get discouraged and we say, no, we can't do it. That's don't go into that world of politics. Don't go on Instagram. Don't go on TikTok. Get off of there and just go and just have go have a farm and raise chickens. And I mean, that cannot be our side. We cannot be doing that. I know people want to say, like, there are no sides. Yeah, there are sides. There are sides. The country is divided. Some people want the country to be like this, and some people want the country to be like that. And one side is going to win out. And yes, you have to take care of your soul and your family's souls first. I get that. Yes, you have to do that. But know this. The fate of the country and the fate of the society that your kids will live in and your grandkids will live in, the things they are taught in school, the healthcare they get, the society they live in, the cultural mores that they are going to inherit, the economic opportunity that they will either have or not have, the things they will be able to say or not be able to say, the media they'll be watching, the culture that they will be living in entirely depends on whether or not people who believe in something different try and change it. And yes, we trust God. Yes, we pray to God. Yes, God is in control. Yes, the end times are coming. But maybe in the meantime, let's try and make the country a little bit more the way we think he would want it. He doesn't want us just going down, sitting around down here going, "Oh, you take care of it, God. We can't." God's saying, "What do you? Yeah, you pray to me, you trust me, but I've given you your voice. I've given you writing skills. I've given you speaking skills. I've given you the skills to create, uh, compelling media on TikTok and everything. I've given you skills to convert people. I've given you skills to preach to people. Go do it. Go act." And we've got plenty of people, by the way, who are preaching the gospel. We have plenty of people. We have plenty of pastors. We have plenty of Christians. My point is, yes, we need more, but we also need those people entering the political world, not shying away from it. Charlie Kirk's legacy is we have to speak up and we have to get involved, not turn away and shrink and be afraid of it and think we're not gonna wade into that area because it's gonna steal our peace. So anyway, I didn't want my little tribute to Charlie Kirk to end in a total rant, but I don't really think it's a rant. I think it's more of just me trying to give you my thoughts and me trying to channel sort of what Charlie's life was all about. People say, when someone passes and something like this happens, you want to take aspects of their life and honor them by living it out. And my challenge is, if you want to live out Charlie Kirk's legacy, then be bold, be bolder, and speak up. And I'm not saying get yourself fired or get in a family or anything like that. I'm just saying step forward into these arenas, not out of the arena, into it. So that's that. That's honestly all I've got for tonight. I mean, like I said, I am I'm sad. I'm sad at what happened. There are, of course, positives that seem to be emerging, and I hope they do emerge. Charlie lived his life as a legend, and he went out like a legend. I have to tell you, he went out like a legend. And I pray for his children. I pray for his wife, because it's like, yeah, it's one thing to lose your father at a young age like that, but it's another thing to lose your father because of that, and to have the video there forever for everyone to see, and for you to eventually, yes, probably see. So I thought it was very powerful when Erica Kirk forgave the shooter. That is the very best of Christianity. That is the very best of people of faith. And, these people are mocked, and faith is mocked and ridiculed, but that's arguably maybe the boldest and strongest thing someone could ever do, is forgive someone who murdered your husband, murdered your family member. I don't know. It takes a very, very special person to do that. And I'll leave it with this. The combination of bold faith in God and a determination politically, those two things are unstoppable. And I think a lot of us have one without the other. There's either people who are very politically involved, but they don't have the faith in God. They don't have the trust in God. They don't have the foundation, the moral, spiritual, and Christian foundation. And then there are people who have the moral, spiritual, and Christian foundation, but they don't want to be involved in politics, for lack of a better term. And it is my belief that Charlie's legacy is best carried on by, again, save souls, save the country. That's how you carry on his legacy. And save souls, sometimes saving souls is saving your own soul and saving your wife and your husband and your kids' souls. Sometimes it's that local. It's that simple. Sometimes it's saving many others. And yes, it's true. And I heard my pastor say this weekend. It is true that you can do a lot of positive change in the country just by getting your own house in order, just by taking care of your own family. That is true. That's very true. And we should all take that to heart. But I believe that we have to be involved. If we want to carry on the legacy, we cannot turn off information. For people like me, sometimes I have to learn to turn off the information because it's too much. But if we're talking about the average person out there, the problem is not that they're getting too much information. The problem is not that they are too immersed in politics and ideas. It's the opposite. The problem is people are putting on blinders and they don't want to look. They don't want to see it. They don't want to get involved in it because they think it's dirty and it's contentious and it's negative. Well, maybe you ought to jump in and not make it so negative. Oh, those politicians are just a bunch of heathens. And well, maybe you should jump in and make it so there's something else there. Maybe God needs to be represented in Washington, D.C. Maybe Jesus ought to be represented in the halls of Congress. Maybe he ought to be represented in the media and in TV shows and in podcasts and on TikTok. Maybe he ought to be there, and maybe we are the ones to take it there. Charlie certainly did more than his fair share for us. And it's time for us to do something for him. And on that note, I think that'll be it. Thank you for joining. Thank you for commenting. If you're watching this on live, thank you. If you're watching it after I reposted it, thank you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm not going to spend tonight explaining why I have not been on for so long. I experienced a loss of my own that was difficult. And then I do have work, outside of this podcast. So, and that takes up a lot of time. So it's difficult for me, but I felt the need and I kept feeling like, well, let's put it this way. I kept feeling Charlie nudging me all week, like, come on, get back on there. So this one's for you, Charlie. Thank you for the life you lived. Thank you for leading us all so boldly and giving us such a great example to look up to. Thank you for not turning off social media, not turning off the news, but jumping into the news and being the news and being on social media and convincing people. Thank you for not turning away. Thank you for jumping in. Thank you for not shying away from the discussion and the debate. Thank you for jumping into it. Thank you for walking into the fire, literally for us. Thank you for all of the people you brought to our side. And more importantly, thank you for you to you for all the people you brought to Jesus and you brought to God and you convinced to go to church. We will never know the amount, but I would say it is way more than any of us could even imagine. Thank you, Charlie, for fighting for us, not just in the moral and spiritual realm, but in the political realm. I have no doubt in my mind that elections went the way they went in large part because of you and your ground game and your efforts. And I can remember there were elections that did not go that way. And I remember actually watching your show, and I remember thinking to myself, these guys have no idea. These guys just keep fighting, and they have no idea. There's no way we're going to do it. Well, they kept fighting, and they kept going, and sure enough, and I remember them saying, I can remember this. This was around election time. They said, oh, the Democrats have the best ground game we've ever seen. The reason you can never count out the Democrats in the national election is because they have a ground game the likes of which no one has ever seen. And what does the right have? Oh, well, they have TPUSA. And it was like they were chuckling, like they were laughing, like, all Trump's got is TPUSA, like in Arizona or some outfit out west. That TPUSA organization was quite possibly the greatest ground game anyone has ever seen in the last election. That was run by Charlie Kirk. That was him. So finally, thank you, Charlie, for being an inspiration. We can watch all the TikTok and Instagram reels we want of you debating and your ideas and your ability to persuade people and win people over and bring them to our side. You were amazing at that. But the bigger inspiration was your life, the family you had, the principles you lived by, the faith in God you had, the legacy of your kids and your wife who are in the same vein and have the same faith and the same boldness that you have. Thank you for being an inspiration, and let us all look at Charlie Kirk, whether you are 15 years old or 55 years old or 90 years old. You look to Charlie Kirk and you say, maybe my life can be a little more like his. Maybe I can be a little bit more like him. Maybe I can be a little bit more believing and have a little bit more faith and more trust in God. Maybe I can do a better job at getting my family in order. Maybe I can get married. Maybe I can have kids like Charlie Kirk did. Maybe I can build an organization like Charlie Kirk did. Maybe I can make connections like Charlie Kirk did, form relationships like he did, bring people into the fold, start an organization, grow the influence like he did. Maybe I can jump into the debate and not get angry, but still be convincing and confident like he did. And maybe I could care as much about saving the country and saving souls as he did. So that's his legacy, is that he has inspired us by his example. He has won over more people, not through his debate, although he has won people over that way, but through his example, and through inspiration by people looking at him and looking up to him and admiring him. We need more young men like Charlie Kirk. And if there is a positive, that has come out of this whole thing, there will be more men and women like Charlie Kirk. So that's all. That's all for tonight. I wanted to pay tribute to Charlie. I wanted to give some of my thoughts about how I felt about the whole thing. And now, just at the very end here, to thank him. Thank you, Charlie. We love you. And we're going to do our best to be more like you every day. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night.